morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we've got a new Shaymin card that we need to be having a little bit of a look about. And stop me if you've heard this one before, but shout out to the lovely Antoine Boulet, one of our very favourite people here, and of course, the lovely person who provided our translation. Now, if we start off having a little bit of a look at the basics of Shaymin here, we've got 70 HP. And on the one hand, 70 HP is extremely low, which is sad and all of that. On the other hand, we can at least be, I don't know, we can give a little bit of props, right? Because there's plenty of stuff that does 60 damage. So at least you're out of range of that. I mean, Salamence will do 30 damage to each of your Pokemon. So at least 2 Salamences here will not go and get a KO. So, you know, small mercies. Now, it does have a retreat cost of 1, which means you can get free retreat here with U-turn board, which is quite nice. And it's got a weakness to fire, which means a weakness to Welded X, which isn't terribly ideal. Though, as we mentioned a moment ago, the fact that it does have 70 HP kind of makes us not worry all that much. But you're a grass Pokemon. I mean, there's not much great about grass Pokemon right now. Netball is rotating, lets you search out basic grass Pokemon and basic grass energy. You're not really hitting much for weakness unless, I mean, to be fair, Colossal does look really good. So maybe when Colossal comes around, you can be hitting that for weakness. That should be the best grass weak Pokemon we've got around. So, you know, there's something. And we did have a bunch of tricks that were all related to healing, the other Shaymin, Life Forest, Prism Star, etc. But to be honest with you, they're rotating out as well, so it's not much to love about being a grass Pokemon. You can search out Evolved with Turffield Stadium, but we're not an evolved Pokemon, so who really cares? But what does it do? Well, the first attack is not the attack we're really worried about here. 1 grass energy, 20 damage, heal 20. Oh, okay. I mean, the 20 damage is terrible. Maybe back in the day when we had Choice Band and we could hit for weakness and do 100 damage, maybe. But we don't have Choice Band right now, we have Vitality Band. Which means even if you're hitting for weakness and have the tool, you're rocking a total of 60 damage. That is not something we can get particularly excited about. It's not good, ladies and gentlemen. It's not good. As for the healing, I mean, I've just got done telling you you got 70 HP. 70 HP isn't a lot. It's actually very, very low. So, yes, fine, you're healing 20. Maybe if all of our other tricks weren't rotating and we could... But even then, right, even if we had all of our healing tricks, oh, you can heal all the damage done to you every turn, which basically means you're not going to be one-hit KO'd unless your opponent can do 70 damage. And that's kind of my point here. It's just not working. Never mind. The good news is we do have a second attack, which is absolutely worth having a play with, and is the reason why Shaymin gets its own video. For 2 energy, 1 grass, 1 colorless energy, you flip a coin, and if heads, your opponent takes their active Pokemon, and all cards attached to it, shuffles it, or them, and puts them at the bottom of their deck. It gets rid of their active Pokemon. Whatever it is, no matter how big it is, no matter how much energy it's got attached to it, it goes on the bottom of their deck. Now, the good news is here, this can win you the game. This can absolutely win you the game right there and then. Sometimes we see attacks like this that specifically say if your opponent only has 1 active or if they've got no bench or whatever, you can't use it to win the game. The good news is here, you totally can. Sure, it's shuffling and putting it on the bottom of your deck, rather than just getting rid of it entirely. But if your opponent doesn't have any other Pokemon on the field, this will win you the game right there and then. If your opponent has no other Pokemon, this wins the game. Incidentally, the Pokemon I was talking about that couldn't win the game was Tapu Fini. The GX attack for 1 water energy shuffled your opponent's active and all cards attached to it into their deck. But if your opponent had no bench Pokemon, this attack did nothing. And this is actually a really important comparison here, because the thing is, Tapu Fini was a basic Pokemon for a single energy. And clearly that was too good, right? Now this was guaranteed not on a coin flip. That was a big change. But for a single energy on a basic Pokemon, you would win the game if your opponent had no other Pokemon out. So they put in, the card designers, that little addendum, that appendix, just saying, look, if they don't have any other Pokemon and this will win you the game flat out, you can't actually do it. And clearly that was a good thing. It would have ended up being too good. Shaymin's got a coin flip and a second energy. But that is all that's standing in the way. Remember, as the game stands at the moment, when you go first on turn 1, you are not allowed to play a supporter card, and you are not allowed to attack. Which makes it very difficult to get your basics out. Yes, sure, Capture Energy will search a Pokemon and put it on the bench. You can use all of those item cards like Quick Ball, for instance, and you can use abilities like Dedenne. But we've all, if you've played a bunch of games since rotation, you will have had a lot of games where you pass having gone turn 1 first and only having one Pokemon on the field. Now, sometimes your opponent can take advantage of it, cheers Cinderace, and sometimes they can't. This is a way of making sure that you, or your opponent I suppose, absolutely can take advantage of it. Now, the energy is not a big deal. You got your grass energy. In terms of the second energy, you got a bunch of options. You can use Tapu Koko, which will just accelerate a lightning energy onto it. Boom, then you're done. You've got that new Turbo Patch card, which incidentally is seeing a bunch of play in Japan at the moment. Lets you flip a coin, and if heads, you attach an energy from your discard pile, basic energy, to a basic non-GX Pokemon. That will do the trick quite nicely. The sad thing is that Counter Gain is rotating out. Otherwise, there will be a great combo with Counter Gain and using Miss Magius to go behind on prizes. Although, to be clear, right, Miss Magius you can evolve up turn 1 using Duskstone, and then you can KO it, you go behind on prizes, you draw till you got 7 cards in your hand. Even in a world where we don't actually have Counter Gain to take advantage of it, incidentally, a little while ago we had Counter Energy as well, which would also have done the trick nicely if you were behind on prizes, but again, moot point. And that would be cool. But make no mistake about it, you're still drawing extra cards. And you're still increasing the likelihood that you're going to win the game. Even though you're not able to use those if you're behind on prizes cards, you'll still be fine. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, hang on a second, Wassy, isn't this very similar to the Pinsir from Sun and Moon, that for 2 energy allowed you to flip a coin and if heads, put your opponent's active Pokemon and all cards attached to it into their hand? And back then, they did have double colourless energy that they could use. And to be fair, they had Victini to flip to try and make sure they had a 75% chance. And we've got Glimwood Tangle, which is the same thing in a stadium form. It's a fair point. Pinsir didn't see a huge amount of play. Why would we think Shaymin would? The retreat cost of 1 makes me considerably happier. The fact that I'm not relying on a special energy I can only play 4 of in my deck makes me a lot happier. The fact that we're in a format with a lot more free prize and big Pokemon, etc., makes me a lot happier. This is in a lot of ways similar to Pinsir, and I will happily concede, not happily, but I will concede that Pinsir did see very little play. But that doesn't make Shaymin not a good card. Formats move on, metagames move on. The fact of the matter is, and of course back then we did not have, and this is probably the biggest issue, we did not have the Sword and Shield rules. So it was way less likely your opponent would pass with 1 Pokemon in the active. That's probably the biggest reason to play Shaymin now. There we go, there's your reason. There's why Shaymin's better than Pinsir. Although I do like not relying on a special energy. Maybe it's going to end up being too awkward, but the thing is, it's not just winning the game turn 1, although that is a good use for it. It's my opponent's got a Zacian with free energy attached to it, with no backup attacker, You flip a heads, and again, with Glimwood Tangle, that's a 75% chance, and all of a sudden, your opponent has no option. They've got no attacker. It's going to take them a couple of turns. You don't take the prizes because you're not knocking the Pokemon out, but what you're doing is you are slowing the game down for your opponent. You're making sure that they're not going to be in a position to attack for a couple of turns, and then you go and win the game from there. I like this. I think it's a good tech. I'm giving it 3 Wassies. I don't think it's a card around which you would build a deck, but I do think it's a really nice tech. And in the format that we are in at the moment, where there are so many games where your opponent's got one Pokemon active, and if you can get rid of it, you win the game there and then, having a Pokemon that's going to give you a 75% chance of getting rid of whatever Pokemon is in the active, that has got to be something that you're at least having a little bit of a think about. But I'd like to know if you are having a think about it, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.